if you are a smart basketball player and you watch the way she plays, you would want to play with her.
Sheryl Swoopes and Caitlin Clark. While both names should be associated with excellence in women's basketball, these last few months have seen their names become recognized for side digs and controversies, with Swoopes being the only agitator. Sadly, it seems her pettiness has reached a new high. The Caitlin conspiracy. In the last few months, Caitlin Clark has made multiple headlines, and deservingly so. The attention she brought to the WNBA was unprecedented, and her performance and stats in only her first season, after many doubted her, have all made her the most famous WNBA player of all time. 2.5 million people tuned in to watch the Indiana Fever's final game of the WNBA season. To put that into perspective, it is the 9th most viewed non-all-star WNBA game of all time, as well as the most viewed WNBA game since 2000. But away from the views and attendance records, Caitlin Clark delivered the performance of a lifetime in her first year of professional basketball, breaking and setting new records. I mean, a rookie setting a single-season assist record, a rookie scoring record, and finishing top 5 in MVP voting. This should be applauded, with WNBA players and its legends coming together to give Caitlin Clark her deserved accolades, but unfortunately, that has not been the case. In the words of ESPN sports analyst Stephen A. Smith, there has been legitimate resentment towards Caitlin Clark, and throughout the season, it was clear for all to see. From physical attacks on the court, from WNBA veterans, to media attacks from WNBA legends looking to discredit her accomplishments, Caitlin Clark went through it all on her journey to being the Rookie of the Year. WNBA stars like Dejounte Carrington and Chennedy Carter have taken shots at her on the court and also on social media. Hall of Famers Lynette Woodard went out of her way, even before Caitlin played a game in the WNBA, to belittle the guard's achievement. Unfortunately, among these many names, one name that has continuously made the news for attacking Caitlin or being biased towards the guard is the first woman signed to the WNBA, Sheryl Swoopes. Her analysis of Caitlin since college has been nothing short of biased and wrong, with the growing perception being that she is jealous of the star guard. But is Sheryl Swoopes jealous of Caitlin? How has her pettiness reached a high level? Petty Sheryl Swoopes. Over the past few months, there has been a perception that Sheryl Swoopes has an issue with Caitlin Clark. However, if there were doubts about the perception, the belief was confirmed during the Dallas Wings and Las Vegas Aces game. It was a game Caitlin wasn't involved in. However, being the big name and talent she is, her name came up during the game. Sports commentator Ron Thulin mentioned Caitlin during a play-by-play. Thulin drew the attention of the WNBA's Players of the Week, explaining that the Indiana Fever's guard had an impressive week after averaging 25 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. Surprisingly, Swoopes, who had been eagerly talking just a few minutes before, remained silent throughout the conversation regarding the guard and the Fevers. Obviously, Thulin started the read, but there are always a few gaps in that brief segment where viewers want analysts to fill in and discuss the topic in depth. This time, who the Players of the Week were and how outstanding they are. Sheryl Swoopes was supposed to give her insight about how great Caitlin was during the week, but the 3-time MVP chose to remain silent throughout. Interestingly, the scenario became even more bizarre when the WNBA Hall of Famer was controversially absent from the broadcast booth for the next game between the Dallas Wings and the Indiana Fever. Her absence sure caused speculations. However, she took to WNBA rookie Angel Reese's podcast to address her absence at the game. They were like, "Oh, Sheryl was replaced. They fired her. They kicked her off the game because it's Caitlin Clark, and she can't do that game. I was contracted to do 7 Dallas Wings games, so I was never supposed to do that game anyway. But because of everything else, they just kind of figured that. Because I didn't do that game, well, they fired me. But really, my contract was up. And that was it. It wasn't a thing," Swoopes said. But in her best attempts to address her absence at the game, she failed to address her silence when Caitlin's name was brought up because her absence at the Dallas Wings and the Indiana Fever's game sounded like a convenient excuse. Well, convenient excuse or not, Sheryl has a history of criticizing and discrediting Caitlin Clark's accomplishments so much that her comments are now being seen as nothing but personal attacks. History of attacks. If you are a WNBA fan, you would know by now that Sheryl Swoopes has had it out for Caitlin Clark for almost a year now. It's been a long history of attacks pretending to be criticisms. Very recently, the WNBA legend appeared on Gilbert Arenas' podcast to claim Caitlin Clark's rookie season wasn't dominant, that it was nothing but a lot of numbers. Those are hell of a numbers. But to me, that's not dominating, Swoopes said. To put her statement into perspective, Sheryl Swoopes' MVP numbers in 2000 were 20.7 points, 6.3 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 2.8 steals per game. In 2002, she averaged 18.5 points, 4.9 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 2.8 steals per game, while in her final third MVP season, she averaged 18.6 points, 3.6 rebounds, 4.3 assists, and 2 steals per game in 2005. Caitlin in her rookie season averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, 5.7 rebounds, and 1.3 steals per game, and it is worth noting that she led her team to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years, which compared to Sheryl's rookie season, where she actually won a championship with Houston, the WNBA legend only played 9 games. The WNBA legend was for a long time vocal about Angel Reese being the Rookie of the Year because, according to her, the Indiana Fevers would make the playoffs without Caitlin Clark, even though the Indiana Fevers had not been to the playoffs since 2016. Later on, Swoopes claimed with no verifiable source that the Indiana Fever's locker room is in disarray because of Caitlin Clark, and players on the team are looking to leave. Shockingly, several Fevers players have come out to disprove those claims. The whole Swoopes and Caitlin Clark drama has now become a sad saga, with its history dating back to April 2023, when she first publicly talked about the guard breaking her 30-year NCAA tournament record. At the time, the Hall of Famer was visibly unhappy, claiming Caitlin was only able to break the record because she got to play an extra game during her record-breaking streak. To me, she broke the record, but she did it in 6 games. I didn't get that 6th game, so I set the record in 5 games. So, to me, she broke the record, but she did it in 6 games. Swoopes told Pac-12 network host Jordan Robinson. Fast forward to a few months after these comments, and just when Caitlin was about to get drafted to the WNBA, Swoopes went on Gilbert Arenas' podcast to discredit the Fever's guard's scoring record in college. She claimed the guard was only able to become the NCAA all-time leading scorer for both men and women because she played longer in college than her peers due to the COVID pandemic rule. However, she was wrong about it, but instead of being apologetic about it, the legend remained defiant, even doubling down on her criticism when she went on the Gilbert Arenas show again to discredit Caitlin Clark's talent when she further accused the guard of taking more shots than anyone else. She probably takes about 40 shots a game. If you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old, you should be killing them, Swoopes said. Well, this was another false statement because the former Iowa guard averaged 22.7 shots per game, just 3 more shots per game than Swoopes averaged as a senior at Texas Tech. After Caitlin got drafted, Swoopes repeatedly went out of her way to dig at Caitlin Clark to support Angel Reese. When discussions about Reese being a bully on the court came up, Swoopes claimed Caitlin was the real bully. If you want to talk about bullies, we can talk about every time Caitlin has the ball, she pushes off, Swoopes said. All these antics, unfortunately, have not gone unnoticed among fans and the media, with ESPN analyst Stephen A. Smith and basketball icon Nancy Lieberman calling her out for her continuous attack and bias. Swoopes get called out. Sheryl Swoopes' legendary status has seen many become hesitant in calling her out for her continuous attack towards Caitlin Clark. Her attacks and subtle dig and bias have gone on for so long, at least until recently, when former Kings assistant coach and basketball icon Nancy Lieberman called her out. Swoopes said that Caitlin was a fifth-year senior. She was taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate, Lieberman said. Lieberman explained that she called Swoopes as a friend, advising her to retract her statements and admit that she got her facts wrong about the rookie. However, the WNBA legend got angry with her and has decided to avoid her since. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith has also called out the former Houston Comets forward, even going as far as to call her immature. The First Take executive producer explained that all Swoopes has done is prove that there is legitimate resentment towards Caitlin Clark, given that Swoopes knows better, but has decided to double down on her wrongs. Well, in any case, basketball fans online have had a lot to say about Sheryl Swoopes' intentional silence and digs towards Caitlin Clark, with a user commenting, "It's actually funny that Swoopes tried her very best to hide the hate she has for Caitlin. She did a terrible job at it." Another user commented, "Petty and jealous. No other way to put it." Well, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, the next video on your screen is worth your time.